Oh, good old Megyn Kelly getting 2003 news today in February as I check my watch of 2026 years behind anybody who has actually followed this case. Not like, oh, we're following the case like Megyn Kelly, Nancy Grace, and all the other talking head stooges out there. Except with Megyn Kelly, now they're asking the questions that the internet sleuths, the ones that actually know what they're doing, like Lana, Truth and Transparency, Dago from True Crime Cafe, uh, Pavarotti, all those guys. Now, finally, Megyn Kelly is asking some actual questions instead of going along like a good little parrot that I guess she's grown accustomed to doing in 2026. Let's check out the video.
Howard Bloom talking about Brian Kohlberger and why Howard believes now, having seen the crime scene photos and done some other.
Now, Howard Bloom, I'm pretty sure he wrote a book on this like way early on, which is a little bit concerning. And I believe this was even before conviction, but I could be wrong on that. But he had a book written like, boom, like, whoa. Anyway, before we get any more into this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. The more true crime stuff that you interact with, the more true crime stuff I will do. Whether it's the Idaho 4 or anything else, then. But this Idaho, the Idaho 4 case, it's had a tail, and it's gonna be picking up steam. So, you wanna see me do more of this? Make sure to like, subscribe, all that jazz. All right, let's go.
Investigation that Brian Kohlberger may have had an accomplice, and more than that, that Brian Kohlberger may have been the accomplice.
Oh my God! No way! If only we knew this back in 2024, 23. I mean, my God. It does not take a rocket scientist to figure that out.
To someone else. Now, Howard, one of the most interesting things that you raise in your piece, positing this possibility, is you harken back to the moment Kohlberger was taken into custody, and one of the few public statements that he made on the record about this case, and the very first question he asked the investigators when he was arrested.
Yes, on the night of Kohlberger's arrest in his parents' house in Pennsylvania, he's put up in zip ties. His parents and one of his sisters are put in zip ties by the police. He's taken out to a state trooper's car. He's put in the back seat, and the first thing he says to the state trooper is, "Was anyone else arrested?" And at the time, no one really paid too much attention to this. We thought he was being the dutiful son concerned about his parents or his sister. But
which I heard that actually didn't happen, but I'm not 100% sure because they won't release the body cam on that.
now, in retrospect, when you look at all the other aspects of the case, when you look at what occurred that night, whether one man could have done it, this question, has a more ominous echo. Was anyone else arrested? It raises the possibility.
Yes.
You don't have to know what Brian Kohlberger said when he was getting arrested to know this was a multi-person job. Just use a functional brain and look at the whole situation. One person You're expecting me to believe one person went in to a random house with 5 cars in the driveway with only but a knife, went in, killed 4 people with a grand total of over 150 stab wounds, went and played peekaboo, or had a staring contest with Dylan. Peekaboo was a DoorDash druggie, but you have a staring contest with Dylan, and then you walk out the back door. And this is all, on top of that with a cleanup. And that was done in what police are saying could be as low as 90 seconds.
That someone else is out there right now. And we go to the...
It really is an odd question when you think about it. You know, if Kohlberger, we know he committed the crime, but let's assume.
No. We do not know that. No, we don't. The police have not given anything to suggest that he did. A touch DNA on what they say is the knife sheath. But again, we don't know that for sure because the only thing that the lab got was a swab that who we know is corrupt of MPD sending a sample to a lab in Texas. All we know, they could have took that Q-tip and stuck it right up Kohlberger's butt. We already know MPD is corrupt. They have lied in their police reports. Why in the hell would we not expect them to be lying about this just to be able to build some sort of connection to Kohlberger?
If he had done it totally by himself with no accomplice, why would that be the first question you asked investigators?
It certainly is a troubling one. And there's more evidence that...
And again, this is old news. We already know that this was a multi-person job. All you have to do is you can look at either room and you can tell there is multiple people doing this. You look at Maddie. Doesn't take a PhD in psychology major to know it was 2 different people. Maddie was killed quickly, efficiently, just to get it done and over with. Haley was tortured. Agonizing. This took time. The killer took their time on Kaylee. And then you look at Xana and Ethan. Somebody had to occupy Ethan while this whole fight scene was going on with Xana. Because one person isn't going to be able to take Ethan down. Certainly not somebody like Kohlberger. You got to remember, Ethan, he big. He big. So the only way to explain that is somebody was occupying Ethan while the fight scene with Xana was taking place.
Makes this question even eerier. On the knife sheath, which we know has Kohlberger's DNA on it, a little bit of touch DNA on the button snap. That was a cornerstone of the state's case against him. But there now is, according to the documents that have been released, there's unknown Y DNA on it, a speck of that. Y DNA is male DNA. They say in the documents that they ran it against Kohlberger, they ran it against other males who had been in the house and been suspects, and they could not identify it. What they didn't,
Wait, on the knife sheath?
yes, on the knife sheath, this bit of DNA. What they did.
And they still have no idea who it is. I would be willing to bet on a couple of people. I who bear the same name. Hi, Jack. That would be where I would put the most amount of money on. But who knows?
Didn't do is compare this little speck. Maybe it's too small. I don't know why they didn't do this.
Because it would interfere with the narrative that they're trying to tell. Come on, Howard. Be better.
But they didn't compare it to the blood samples they had found previously, which they never investigated, on the handrail and on a glove outside. Sometimes you don't ask questions because you don't want to know the answers. When I was, talking to people,
Which is not the job of the investigator. If you are investigating a crime, you need to have an answer for everything, especially in a quadruple homicide. You have to have the answers for every little thing should this have gone to trial. At the time, you didn't know if this was going to go to trial, and this should have gone to trial. Undoubtedly should have gone to trial. Because a jury with a functional brain would not have been able to say that he's guilty. And that is why I continue to question Ann Taylor and what her motives were.
people in law enforcement about this theory. Many people didn't want to talk, but one person who's very knowledgeable about the case wound up telling me, said, look, this case is all wrapped up. We wanted it to go away, and now it's going away, and we're not going to poke into it anymore. But there's a lot of things that we don't.
Which is a problem. You want to get the right person. If you are looking to have this go away and have what could very well be an innocent person rotting away in prison just because you want it to go away, might be the most despicable act of selfishness on the part of people that are supposed to be protecting you and protecting your rights as an American citizen.
Don't know and will never know. The question is, do the Idaho state taxpayers, do the public, do the families want to leave those questions hanging out there?
No. It's not a question of, do the Idaho state tax a family, the this and that. No. The police have a duty to protect the community. And if there is somebody out there that is responsible for a quadruple homicide, then they are obligated to go after them, to figure out every single answer, to figure out whose blood is where, whose blood's on the banister, whose blood's in the gloves, whose blood is on this wall, that wall. You need to be able to put together a timeline. Tell me exactly what happened from here to there, to there, to there. And tell the story of what actually happened. Investigators cannot tell you when Xana and Ethan got home. They cannot tell you where Murphy went. And we have Dylan and Bethany lying over and over and over again. As I pointed out in my previous video, there is no way on God's green earth Maddie, in her state, being borderline alcohol poisoning, could have taken Murphy outside. It did not happen. That is another huge lie from Bethany. I don't even know where we left off on the video.
Right. I mean, if it's true, there's another vicious serial killer roaming free. So it seems worth a question or two. That we have now come to understand, per People magazine, that the defense had hired a forensic criminologist named Dr. Brent Tarvey, who was going to testify for the defense if this case had gone to trial. And this guy, now obviously he's hired by the defense to try to get Brian Kohlberger off the hook, so we take it with a serious grain of salt, but he is raising in this draft testimony that People got its hands on some similar questions. And here are a few of them as outlined by the magazine. They say that he argued that one killer could not have contained, for example, both Ethan Chapin and his girlfriend, Xana Kernodle, or rendered the two different types of lethal force used on Kaylee Gonsalves, because we know the killer killed Kaylee and Madison first, we believe, on the third floor, and Kaylee fought for her life, and Kaylee had a broken nose and many injuries about the face, which we were told were defensive wounds, as she definitely tried to fight him. And
yeah, it's kind of hard to fight when you're tied up. You can't convince me otherwise that there was restraints involved. There was torture involved. The killers here took their time. The people that actually committed this took their time. This was a multi-hour event. And my best evidence that I can point to you, look at the 11-12 ring camera. You hear blood-curdling screams at 2:30. And you hear the dog going bat crazy at 4:15-ish, 4:17. This was a multi-hour event. That they took their time. And I don't know exactly when, nobody knows exactly when the four took their last breaths. It could be anywhere between 2:30 all the way to 11 o'clock in the morning. Any time. Again, I cannot stress this enough. To say that this was a quick in and out, just brutal, quick scene is ridiculous. It didn't happen. It did not happen that way. This was a multi-hour event.
And it was Kaylee's injuries that led the authorities at the presser after the plea to say, we believed he used a weapon other than a knife. And people were like, what? He said, like, there's two weapons. That was the first we heard. And then he kind of hedged a little, saying, well, can't say for sure. Maybe, there was speculation, was it the butt of the knife? But it seemed to be some sort of blunt forced object to beat Kaylee. Forgive me, these are disturbing details, Howard.
I mean, these are questions that are raised and that they didn't follow up on. And I find that, from the moment they tore down the murder house, they wanted this case just to disappear. So many people involved in the case.
Why would they want that? Why would they want that?
Have just wanted to move on. The original police chief couldn't wait to quit his job and move on. The original judge couldn't wait to retire. They tear down, again, the murder house, as I said, and then they're able, just over a course of a single weekend, after 3 years nearly of legal wrangling, to just settle things without demanding an allocution, without trying to say, we want the answers. They say, well, Kohlberger would...
Yeah, there was no allocution. There was no Kohlberger standing up, saying exactly what happened, why he did it. None of that. And I'm going to say the same thing, and it was the first thing I said when I went up on the open panel on True Crime with Dago. It was, he's not going to write a book. He's not going to say what happened, because he knows just as much as what we do. if not even less, about what happened at 1122 King Road.
Never tell us the truth. Well, either he will tell you where the murder weapon is, or he won't. It's pretty cut and dry to ask that question and
Because
get
he
a
doesn't know.
clear answer. He will be able to tell you
Right.
how he knew the young women involved, or he didn't.
Didn't.
Why they did this, I don't understand.
They had cards.
Because it's a cover-up, Howard. Quit being stupid. God's sake, you're losing hair. Your hair is gray. You should be smart enough at this point to understand what is going on. It is a cover-up.
Cards to play, and they refused to play them. I want to go back to this guy, Dr. Brent Tarvey, because he's raising other good questions along the lines of yours. I mentioned, so we're looking at the injuries on Kaylee, who we now know because they've released the number of stab wounds each victim received. Kaylee received 38. Xana, poor Xana, she was the one who was awake, received more than 6.
At least 3 of the 4 were awake. The only one that I'll buy that was asleep was Maddie. Haley, awake. Hannah, obviously, awake. Ethan, with that much amphetamine in his system, awake.
67 stab wounds. Madison Mogan, 28. And Ethan Chapin, 17. And he was asking questions about how could Ethan have been killed with Xana. Like, he said, it is not reasonable to think that Ethan would have remained in his bed after waking up or being awake while Xana was being attacked in front of him. This evidence and context begin to suggest the existence of a second attacker. Ethan and Xana appear to have been attacked at the same time, so it's inconsistent with the state's theory that these crimes were committed solely by one individual. But Howard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the, it's the, oh, how do I put it? It's the K-bar version of Thor that came in. That would be the only way that one person would be able to do this. Got a knife that he can control, and whenever he throws it, it comes right back to him whenever he calls for it. So, I guess Norse mythology lives on.
Is it possible that Brian Kohlberger could have attacked Ethan first, killed him, and then killed Xana? Because you would think he would take out the man before, going after the woman.
It's possible.
Okay, so, like, Megyn here is trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You can't have this great chase that Dylan describes, which I don't think happened. But I'm going to assume it happened because that's what Dylan said happened. Because according to police, what she says is the gospel. We have Xana running down the stairs. Goes to her bedroom. You cannot, it is not physically possible to take out Ethan first when Xana is in between the killer and Ethan. That cannot happen. Again, unless we got the K-bar version of Thor and can throw the knife and have it come back to him at his beck and call.
But the way it's been reconstructed now and the way I understand the events is that Xana was literally going up the stairs because she heard the commotion in the third floor bedroom, and then she was going down and Kohlberger chased her and then immobilized her. Then he dealt with Ethan, and then she was killed. That's the way it's been explained to me. But also, Ethan is 6'4". He was a big guy. He was a basketball star in high school, an athlete.
And again, we also have to put into consideration Dylan's room is right there. Dylan's room is the center hub for this. She would have heard, and she would have known exactly who it was running down the stairs because there would have been screams. Whether the simple, like, bloody murder scream, or Ethan, or something. Oh my God, there's a killer here. He's hurting her. Ah, run. And Dylan's just like peeking her head out the door. Like it's a twisted version of whack-a-mole.
It's sort of hard to believe. Also, the house was dark. There are 2 different floors. There's a long staircase.
No, it was not dark. There were lights on. He had lights everywhere. Nice try, Howard. Thanks for coming.
Takes time to move around. How all this could happen, and by one person, I just don't see it. Just try.
Could have been wearing a headlamp. I don't know. He wasn't seen. With the witness who saw him, the roommate Dylan who saw him, did not say he had a headlamp
No,
on. However,
she said she had some device, like maybe a vacuum cleaner. She said at one point. But let's go back to these 2 surviving witnesses.
Well, it started off as describing as a gun. If you actually go through the police report, Howard described a gun. It was a cylinder, had a triangle on it, kind of like a gun. And then eventually it devolves to a vacuum cleaner. I have yet to see a murder checklist that involves a vacuum cleaner. Okay.
Witnesses. They're victims too. This is horrible for them. And yet at the same time, there's a lot we don't know, a lot we don't understand that raises troubling questions. And it's exacerbated by the fact that when we read the interviews, they keep on changing their story. There's no coherent, consistent storyline through all their interviews with the authorities. And
it's almost like they're lying.
Well, one of the questions is where are the bloody footprints? I guess there were not a ton of bloody footprints all over these pictures or the murder scene, Howard. And the question is, who cleaned them up? Or like, let's say Brian Kohlberger was wearing head to toe covering, including booties. Well, those booties would have made footprints. They wouldn't have had treads on them, but they would have made bloody footprints. And if he took off the booties immediately after the...
Oh, I know the answer to this one. He was a superhero. He has superpowers. He was... That would be he was just floating across the ground, using his powers to fly. That seems like a reasonable explanation.
The murders... he would have had to step through blood. There was so much blood. So either way, there should be bloody footprints. And this is, again, one of the things this Brent Tarvey was pointing out. There's an absence of bloody footwear patterns at the scene in general.
It's a very important question. There's this 8-hour gap between the Kohlberger or the assassin being spotted by Dylan Mortensen, and then they're calling the police. The house during that period looks very much as if it were cleaned up. The blood, the footprints, is not there. If you look at the picture of the knife.
Gee, if we only had a couple of people there for an extended period of time, it would really explain why the house is clean, considering that a quadruple homicide took place. But, all the housemates were sleeping.
Sheath on the bed, it looks like it's been arranged. Did the police do that, or was it done by someone else? These are questions that I think should be answered, and I think the defense could have raised this issue of an accomplice, but again, they settled. Why did Kohlberger settle so quickly? What was he trying to protect? Did he have enough of a relationship with someone that he would want to protect them? Well,
they'd know if he had a relationship with somebody. That would be all over his phone. There'd be eyewitnesses to that. We'd know if he were dating somebody or communicating with somebody.
We do know.
Okay, so obviously at this point, I think by now, Kohlberger's completely innocent. But play a little devil's advocate here, because I don't know if Megyn Kelly's just playing dumb to make Howard seem smart, and because she should know this. Burner phones. They wouldn't be on the normal phone because it's a burner phone.
he was sort of dating with someone. He did have I spoke with her, someone involved in the, a foreign student involved in the program at WSU, in the criminal justice program. And, you know, it was known in certain circles, they would say, oh, she has a Koberger. That's how they sort of made fun of her at the time, or mocked her. That was her boyfriend. And there's more we're learning about Koberger. The question is, he cleaned his phone. I think one theory would be that he wants to have the last laugh. Why did he settle? He knew he was doomed, but this is this one secret he can hold on to that will give him strength to survive, because he knows.
Okay. Okay. Howard. Howard, if you're going to come on to a nationally syndicated radio show on Sirius XM, talk about a case, you should probably actually follow the case. You look at all the evidence there. This, at worst, would have been a hung jury. And likely would have led to an acquittal. Because there is no evidence placing Koberger at the scene. There's touch DNA that what we know is a corrupt police department said was on the knife sheath, and they sent a Q-tip that they said that they rubbed on the knife sheath to a lab, and it came back Koberger after using genetic genealogy, which they tested it against because of a random FBI tip that came. So any half-wit lawyer would be able to get out of that. Not a problem.
Knows something that we don't know, and why the prosecution did not press to get these issues resolved, to get answers, is something that I still find troubling.
It is, I mean, when you think about it, it's the thing that troubled everybody from the beginning. And we didn't know that there were 150 total stab wounds in the beginning. We just knew that 4 people were killed in a very short time.
We had a pretty good idea it was going to be a bloody scene. I mean, they said it was the bloodiest scene we've ever seen. So, you know, that would... And also in the little autopsy report thing that they came out earlier with, kind of said that there was 150 stab wounds.
But it's down to about 9 minutes. 150 stab wounds. It's not gunshot.
Oh, and again, Megyn Kelly still not paying attention to the case. Yeah, it was.
It's stabbing somebody, stabbing for somebody.
It's
over the course of
the police said that it could have taken place as quickly as 90 seconds, because you had the 3 stooges. I don't remember which 3, but anybody at MPD and ISP are stooges at this point. That is indisputable. Decided to make a game out of it and see how fast they could do it.
9 minutes from different room to struggles. At least 2 fought for their lives. That would have gone on. And again, the absence of some bloody evidence that we would have expected. Yeah, I mean, these really are very good questions. And then his question, was anyone else arrested? But we're never going to know, right? Unless he gives an interview to that criminologist, Dr. Catherine Rumler from his undergrad program.
Right, or he writes a book, or he talks,
everything
his
up.
sister decides to write a book, which is perhaps happening, or maybe something will come out. I don't think conspiracies can be buried forever, but we're still looking into other old.
There isn't going to be a book coming out from anybody on the Koberger side, because Koberger does not know what happened at 1122 King Road.
Conspiracies that have lingered for generations. So I'm going to poke around a bit more into it. I'm getting some leads to follow. Maybe they're dead ends, but I think it's important to raise these hypotheses. I mean, the search for truth is a search for greater theories, and I'm looking at new theories.
Very important. Correction, Catherine Ramsland. Catherine Rumler is the general counsel, or well, she's high up at Goldman Sachs now, but she used to be a Jeffrey Epstein advisor, which she doesn't want us to talk about now. But you were, madam. You're all over the documents. And I saw you. I heard you myself on audio tapes advising him. So deal with that. Okay. Now there's a report out that Brian Kohlberger may be getting transferred. The prison's denying it, but
Okay, yeah, that part is. But yeah, I mean, anybody who actually followed this case, not, oh, we're gonna keep an eye on it, like Megyn Kelly and all the other talking head stooges. This isn't new. None of this was new. They're trying to act like this is new because they don't use deductive reasoning, and the only way that you can get to the point of which MPD got is by never piecing everything together. You had, because the story, the catalyst for everything was Dylan Mortensen. She is the one that got Maddie to come back from Coeur d'Alene. She was the one that got Kaylee to come back for some sort of event that Kaylee couldn't even go to because she wasn't a sorority member anymore. Which, that should be raising eyebrows. And then she's the star witness to everything, and she didn't see or hear anything other than a chase that logically couldn't have happened on several different levels. Quite frankly, and I've said this before, I've already said this a couple times on here, this was a prolonged event. This wasn't a 10, 15-minute ordeal. This went on for hours. Those, at least Kaylee and Xana, were tortured. There's clear evidence of it. And Kaylee absolutely was. Which leads me to believe, and if you're going to sit here and say that Kaylee was the primary target, and I think she was, then you got to look at the reason why she was back. And that was Dylan. So, we need some questions answered from Dylan Mortensen. And I think it was I don't know if Dylan is the actual killer, but you're going to have to convince me that she wasn't at least a part of the event. Because, again, she is the one that got Kaylee down, that brought Kaylee back to Moscow. And that led to Kaylee's eventual torture and death, while Dylan Mortensen was in the house. As she claims, she was in the house the entire time. She was there. So, questions need to be answered from Dylan. And that's where we go from there. And until that happens, we're at a stalemate. So, all right, that's all I got for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And we'll see you all in the next one.